You hear a lot about the Great Reset, the demise of the dollar. The dollar will be overthrown as a global reserve currency. New things are coming, and people throw in Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies or whatever for good measure. Some of that's going on, some of it's not. So let's sort of drill down on that, because obviously it's very important to a major trading partner that cares a lot about the role of the U.S. dollar, among other things. In analyzing this, you have to distinguish between the role of a reserve currency and a payment currency. They're two different things. The U.S. is about 60%, actually 59% right now, of global reserves. Now, that is down in 2000. That number was about 70%. Now it's 59%. So that's a significant drop, but it's still dominant. But the euro is about 30%. So the US dollar and the euro combined, well, almost 90%, not quite, of global reserves, number one. Everybody else has a slice. So, sterling, yen, Chinese yuan, they all have a little slice, but they're all kind of squished into that 10% wedge. It's really the US dollar and the euro and predominantly the US dollar. And by the way, when we say the global reserve currency, then it's not really a currency. And here's what I mean. It's not as if the People's Bank of China has $1 trillion and $100 bills stacked on pallets in the basement of the building. You don't actually have the currency. You have securities denominated in the currency. So China does have over $1 trillion of U.S. Treasury bills, notes, and bonds, but they don't actually have dollars the way you would have it in a bank account. They have securities. So the key to reserve currency status is, it's partly the currency. It's based on the currency, but it's your securities market. Do you have a big, liquid, well-regulated, well-supported securities market big enough to hold the reserves? And that's what makes the dollar the top reserve currency. The U.S. Treasury market, there's nothing like it in the world. It's the biggest by far. What are the chances that some other currency is going to have a securities market big enough to support global savings and displace the dollar as U.S. reserve currency? Right now, extremely low. The closest, of course, I mentioned the euro, but even the euro, that's not a bond market. There's no European-wide bond market guaranteed by the full faith and credit of the entire European monetary zone. It doesn't exist. You have German bonds, Italian bonds, Spanish bonds, French bonds. Yeah, knock yourself out. You can buy those. And of course, the predominant one would be German bonds, the Bunds. There's another, German government securities. But even that is only a slice of the euro. I said the euro is 29%. Well, yeah, but you got to break it into all these different countries. So there's nothing like the US dollar. Chinese yuan, no way. Russian ruble, no way. So what's special about the US government bond market? Well, it's not just, first of all, you have to have bonds in all maturities. 30-day bills, 2-year notes, 5-year notes, 7-year notes, 10-year notes, 20-year notes, 30-year bonds, all across different maturities. You need a dealer network. In the U.S., we have primary dealers who basically underwrite auctions of U.S. Treasury securities. You need settlement and clearance, when issue trading, futures, options, repos, reverse repos, relations with the central bank, settlement, clearance, etc. And the biggest one is the rule of law. So you need all of that. It's a huge infrastructure. It would take at least 10 years to build if you started today, and no one has anything like it. China doesn't even come close. And by the way, with China and Russia, the one thing they're missing, and this would be true in a lot of parts of the world, is the rule of law. Even if you had the infrastructure I just described, which is not easy and would take 10 years or longer to build. By the way, the U.S. started building this in 1791. I mean, Alexander Hamilton invented the U.S. government securities market. It's been going strong ever since. So we've been doing this for 230 years. But China lacks the rule of law, not even close to what I'm describing. So it's not going to be very easy to overthrow the U.S. dollar as a global reserve currency. But a payment currency is different. Anything can be a payment currency. As I said, when we were kids, we used to trade baseball cards and bottle caps. As long as I'm willing to part with it and you're willing to accept it in exchange for goods and services, it can be a payment currency. There's a lot going on, and that is a more direct threat to the dollar. So specifically, we have the BRICS. That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. But they've now styled themselves BRICS Plus. So when they have their annual summit meetings, and they have other committees and subgroups that meet more frequently, they invite a lot of other countries, Iran, Turkey, Chile, Malaysia, their Central Asian republics, etc., are showing up at the BRICS meetings. They now call it BRICS Plus. They are working on a new payment currency. Preliminary indications would be that it would be a new currency, basically invented from thin air. It would be keyed to a commodity basket. It would have some dollar equivalent, and they would accept it as payment from each other. And then it can go on from there. Maybe, who knows, maybe there'll be some bonds issued soon come later in that currency. But they're encountering a problem, and it's the same problem John Maynard Keynes encountered at Bretton Woods in 1944, because Keynes had the same idea. His global currency was called the Bancor, BANCOR. It's going to be key to a basket of commodities. But commodities are not quite as generic or homogeneous as people imagine. I mentioned oil. There's 72 kinds of oil. Corn, wheat, all kinds of different grades, different regions, et cetera. Even those things don't have as much uniformity as one would expect. And this is why you get to gold, because gold actually is uniform. Gold is an element. It's not a compound. It's not a molecule. It's an atom. Atomic number is 79. It's gold or it's not gold, but there aren't 72 grades of gold. It's just gold. So Keynes got to gold. Everyone thinks Keynes trashed gold, but he didn't. One of his last papers, he said, I've thought about it some more, and a commodity standard maybe, but really a gold standard is the way to go. And the only difference between the US and Keynes in the UK was that Keynes wanted a global currency that would be new and for everybody, and the US said, no, it's got to be the US dollar. The US won that debate. But as the BRICS Plus go through basically the same analysis, the same exercise, my view, they're going to end up at gold, but they're not there yet. But they are working on this commodity basket-based currency. There's another group called the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. They're also inviting other people into the club. I believe Pakistan showed up at their last meeting, and Iran. There are different countries that applied for membership. They're also working on a new global multilateral payment currency. And finally, there's a group called the Eurasian Economic Union, not the EU, but EEU, the Eurasian Economic Union. Again, they're working on that currency. And then, of course, we have a whole world of cryptocurrencies. By the way, is there one common denominator among the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, BRICS Plus, and the Eurasian Economic Union? Yes, it's Russia. Russia's a member of all three. So keep your eye on them. As I say, it's much easier to create a payment currency. It could be crypto, it could be encrypted, digitally based, it could be a new Xi coin, a Putin coin, call it whatever you want. And you could start using it for payments and trade immediately, whether it's a reserve currency or not, and then settle up, 4 times a year maybe in gold. So I want a surplus with you, or you want a surplus with me, or a couple times a year we say, okay, let's square the books, let's settle up. And this currency could be linked to gold, and we would settle with the physical delivery of gold, or just changing title in a Swiss vault, et cetera. But the point is, if you have to pay gross in gold, so everything I buy for you and everything you buy for me has to be in gold, probably not enough gold for that, unless you took the price to $20,000 an ounce, you'll get there. If you're doing it on a net basis, so I don't have to pay you gross and vice versa, we just settle up on net, you need a lot less gold, and it's much more feasible. So it does seem the system is heading in that direction. So I would not look for the dollar to be overthrown as the global reserve currency quite so soon, as some people expect, but the fact that it could be displaced as a payment currency, that is happening very quickly, along the lines I mentioned, and that eventually could lead to, as I say, a big enough bond market to start to overthrow the dollar as a